We're getting a little silly tonight because this is the first Hot Takes episode I'm filming off stream, so there's no chat on the side. I got a full cam, everything, and the hot take is going to be in front of my hands. Let's go. Hot take. Instead of giving everyone self-heal passive, they should give more heroes or all of them some shield health. This mechanic is already in the game, but only a few characters have it. This could tweak the different amount of shield health on different heroes for balance. I disagree. I think this is a pretty hot take because shield health is way better than this self-healing passive. If you guys have played this patch any reasonable amount, you'll notice that the tank and DPS self-healing passive never kicks in a team fight. 5 seconds is a long time. Does, however, hit for the supports a little bit more frequently than the tanks and DPS, of course, at 2.5 seconds. But overall, it's mostly there to help mitigate the run for health packs, especially after a team fight is over and you're in the poke phase again. If your team wins with 2 people left and both supports are dead, at least they can just chill for a bit and gain some health back. They don't get any ult charge, but they do gain a little bit back, so it's not as like you don't have to lose your position and run all the way back and meet your supports to get topped off. I think it's a great quality of life change for the in-between fights, the interim portions, but shield health actually kicks in way more frequently and is way more powerful. Way more powerful. So no, disagree. Hot take, baby. Next. Hi there, the other editor man's here. Hey, Koji, that is the editor. I think he's going to be editing this video too. Here's your classic hot take. Aside from the season 1 rank bug, there are no forced 50-50s. There is no elo hell. That's just grandiose delusions. Delulus. You're right where you belong. Ranked isn't designed to hand you free points. You have to perform better than you do now. Not everybody is destined for greatness. Agreed. I'm not here to just hold hands and suck off my editor and agree with everything he says because I'm a yes man. But I agree, this is a good take. There is no such thing as a forced 50-50. That is just somebody, if somebody says there's forced 50-50, that's just somebody who simply doesn't understand a simple ELO matchmaking algorithm. Now, I'm not trying to call you stupid, but it really isn't that difficult, I think, if you work it out a little bit. So, not in a condescending way, I'm actually going to try to explain it for those who don't understand it yet and are actually curious. A matchmaker or an ELO-based system is supposed, it's supposed to increase difficulty if you're winning games and decrease difficulty if you're losing games over a period of time, right? So in a way, some people get misconstrued and assume that it's a forced 50-50 because the matchmaker is sort of designed to put you until it represents your skill, and at that rank you probably will win and lose 50-50 of your games. For example, let's throw away Overwatch, let's look at chess. If I'm an 800 ELO chess player and I play 1,000 games and I'm still at 800 ELO, I'm 50-50. It doesn't mean the matchmaker on chess.com is forcing 50-50 on me. I'm just an 800 ELO skilled chess player. Now, if you have like Magnus Carlsen playing chess at 800 ELO, he's not going to be 800 ELO for very long. He's going to shoot up the ranks on that algorithm because he's clearly better than 800 ELO. So there's no such thing as 50-50. Anybody who feels like they're 50-50, that's just where you belong. That's it. There's no secret to it. You'll have some deviations. You'll go on some good runs and some bad runs, but your skill averaged out over a long period of time will naturally land you at a part where you're going to feel like you're stuck, but it doesn't mean you're bad. It just means you plateaued. That's where you're at. You need to be playing better than your current skill rating to climb. If I'm 800 ELO in chess, how do I get to 900? I got to play like a 900. And then if you give me a bunch of games over time, I'll slowly work my way out of it and get up to 900. But yeah, there's no such thing. There's no ELO hell in that capacity, in that sense. You're just not destined for greatness. You can be an 800 ELO pleb like me. Actually, I'm like 400 ELO in chess. I'm terrible at that game. Next, freezing cold take. Season 9 has left Lifeweaver and Mercy in shambles. I'm okay with Season 9 punishing heal botting, but heroes that struggle doing both healing and damage at the same time, like Lifeweaver or Mercy, are suffering greatly and are left with either not enough healing or negligible damage. Mild take, I do think both deserve a slight buff in healing as characters that were designed as mostly being healers and not a mix of DPS and healer like the other supports. I actually I agree, but I disagree lumping Lifeweaver and Mercy in the same category. I actually think I like Lifeweaver better than Mercy in some ways, but Mercy in very specific situations when you're pocketing like a godlike DPS. But Lifeweaver seems to actually fit a little bit better in some ways where they either have a Winston, a Sigma, or a Reinhardt. believe it or not. Not the best option, of course, there's better options, but he's actually not bad. I say this all the time in these hot take videos. My phone just dinged. That Lifeweaver's damage is bad with his projectiles because people are moving. But if people are not moving, you'd be surprised how much damage those thorns do. Go in the practice range, shoot a stationary bot. It's like, whoa, it's pretty good. They have a Roadhog as well. You can farm some decent damage. Now, the reason why I said Rein, Sigma, Winston is that you can actually shoot Winston's Bubble, Reinhardt's Shield, and Sigma's Shield. I guess for Ram's Shield as well, but Ram's is like a, 4-second timer. It's going to disappear anyways. But so those 3 heroes, if they have their shield up, you would be surprised at how much DPS Lifeweaver's Thorns do. I think if we calculate it, it might be higher than BAP and Zen's for shield pressure. It's not raw damage onto enemies, but the shield pressure is a stat that won't show up on the stat sheet, but can totally affect the tempo of the other tank. They can't play as aggressively because they walk up like, damn, my shield just got melted. And they have to use other mitigation tactics or, you know, figure out another way to get value. So that's an underrated portion of Lifeweaver's damage. And honestly, with the projectile change on those thorns, fast moving targets like Tracer will be slippery, but if you spam him in a choke, you will be able to pick up a little bit of damage now. It's not as terrible as people may perceive it to be, but still not great. The time to kill or the actual burst damage isn't there to confirm a kill, but the poke factor of it, not that bad. That's just the point I'm trying to get across. He's still not great. I do think they could use some buffs like Weaver and Mercy, but yes. Hot take, Ball is by far the worst treated heroes by the devs and the community. He has been awful for nearly all of Overwatch 2, and he had one season where he was a decent pick. By no means was he OP, but because the community complained, he got nerfed, and he's been the worst tank in the game for almost all of Overwatch 2. And with his high skill ceiling and mind-numbing counters, he struggles a lot. But the community don't like Ball, and the devs don't want to buff him. Ball's an interesting case. Well, right now, Ball is pretty damn good on this patch. He benefited a lot by not suffering against the bigger projectiles because good players would shoot him anyways. He's got a ginormous hitbox. He can't be headshot, so he doesn't get railed out in the open. He got a lot more armor this patch. He's a lot more disruptive in his counters. Well, his counters are kind of like Sombra, but he doesn't get blasted as quickly since 75 armor and all that extra overhealth from his passive shields does allow him to roll away fast enough and mitigate the effects of that DPS passive. Since he's not actively being healed in a lot of team fights, he has to roll away and disengage for a health pack, and you know, it didn't really affect him. So a couple of things indirectly made Ball a lot better this patch. That being said, he has not been a great tank. I wouldn't say he's been the worst tank. I think Roadhog takes the cake in that capacity. I think a good Ball still managed to find a way, but he's a high skill ceiling hero, so a lot of players were not able to tap into his potential. And if he does play into some counters, yeah, it can make him struggle quite a bit. I do think they ought to give him some way to not feel the effects of the counter so much. Like being hacked doesn't immediately kick you out of Ball form, maybe, or is that a little too much? You can lower the threshold for Fireball, maybe. Some ways to still allow him to do the things he does without getting absolutely steamrolled. Because this big hitbox does mean he gets blasted, especially with all these Discord orbs and the damage pressure enemies can provide. But yeah, I wouldn't say he's one of the worst treated heroes in that capacity. Probably because he's not that popular. And I feel like heroes that aren't like aggressively popular with the greater community often get overlooked. I mean, that's not even like a secret. We saw when like Bastion was bugged in season 1 of Overwatch, they didn't, or like Mei was disabled for a bit, they didn't fix them for like over a week. But imagine if popular heroes like Mercy had an issue where like she was actually like terribly bugged or really, really, really bad. Like that would just cause too much of an outrage. You know what I mean? So, I mean, yeah, I agree. He not treated too well in terms of getting the correct tuning, but maybe some reworks are on the way. I do recall Alec Dawson a couple of seasons ago say they were looking at like helping Ball in some ways. Maybe it'll land soon, Blizzard soon, whenever that is, but hopefully that's still on the horizon. This is the last time I am pasting this. Hot take. Healing penalty of 50% for supports healing other supports. So Ana does not heal 70 per shot, but 35. This would make supports that pocket each other killable with something besides one shot. Also, supports would use more cooldowns on themselves, which leads to more openings. Like healing yourself would not be reduced by 50%. Penalties 50% could be too much, but a penalty is necessary. Also, feel free to tell me why I am wrong. Well, as it stands on this patch, all the supports that get rolled, like that don't have like an escape, are getting rolled. That's why Ana's kind of getting owned this patch. Baptiste, we saw in the recent, like there's a hotfix patch last Thursday, so it's only been 5 days since this new patch. We saw in the J3 Community Clash Tournament with a lot of high-level Overwatch, former Overwatch League contenders players running the BAP Lucio, high survivability, but the BAP was getting run over. No matter how much you pocket each other, BAP was getting rolled, so he actually swapped to Moira. So this is a patch where high survivability is valued, because even if supports pocket each other with that new 20% DPS passive, it's more than enough to actually just like do enough. And then honestly, if you're a DPS hero taking a 1v2 where supports are pocketing each other, I don't think you should be allowed to kill them if you're occupying the space and the threat levels of 2 supports. Even if you can't confirm a kill, that's doing a lot. It may not feel good because you can't kill them, but you forcing 2 people to use their cooldowns on each other like this, and you're one person. That's great value. Like that's on your team to take advantage of that space you're making. So, I mean, there are some egregious examples with like invulnerability stuff where they stack like Suzu with BAP Lamp, and it can feel really, really bad. But I mean, I've got some support bias. Let's get that out of the way before someone comes and flames me in the comments. But I mean, if you're burning Suzu and Lamp, that's really, really good. Maybe some cooldowns are a little too short. Maybe Suzu is too short of a cooldown in some ways, but I don't know. I think the 20% on this patch for the DPS is already very good. It was a lot of people were arguing that it needed to be nerfed. I think that's enough, especially against supports. And Ana right now does not heal 70 per shot, but 35. Ana's self nade, if you get shot by like a DPS right now, is like 48 HP. That's not a lot. It used to be 100, and Ana's HP pool was 200. That's 50% of her health, but now it's nerfed to 60 because people were complaining about supports pocketing and healing each other and healing herself. Ana got nerfed in that way, and that 20% brings it down to 48 HP for a self nade on a 250 HP pool on Ana. That's less than 20% of her total HP pool in that duel specifically, which is why Ana kind of is getting rolled right now, because Tracer wins that duel for the most part, unless it's slept. But even if she gets slept, I don't even think Ana has the burst to kill. So anyways, I don't think the supports need any more nerfs. This is very totally a DPS patch, and supports are not eating as well this patch, that's for sure. I really think tanks need some love now, and less about nerfing supports and more about giving tanks some love. Okay, warm take. Mauga is the worst kit design we ever saw in Overwatch 1 and 2. The character can basically only shoot tanks because he is terrible at doing anything else, but he excels at playing like an unga bunga me shoot big enemy. No reason to do anything else, and you can only focus other heroes if they are misplaced, unlike any other tank. I actually sort of agree. I don't really like Mauga's design. He's cool like lore wise, and he's got big muscles, and like he's a cool character like lore wise, but his design is very like Resident Sleeper, like very one-dimensional, very unga bunga machine guns. That being said, I actually think when you're medium range and you actually get shot by one gun to get lit on fire and a second one separately at medium range, it's actually better than people expect. But like the design itself is very mind-numbing, and I agree with it. I'm not actually sure what I would do. You want to keep his identity with the whole machine guns. I don't know. Maybe you can make him a bit more fluid. You can make his engage tool, his charge, not feel so clunky. Do you know what I mean? Anybody who's played Mauga knows that charge, that overrun, just feels bizarre. Like the weird, when you run, you just feel like you have no control compared to like a Rhine charge. It just feels, you can move your crosshair. It's got like a separate sensitivity, and I don't like that. Maybe some more fluidity in that capacity can actually encourage him to not just unga bunga shoot the enemy tank. He is quite lethal at close range, but obviously it puts him in a bad spot. So something with the overrun maybe on a shorter cooldown, and maybe less of the immunity and charge, but just like double running to really go a little bit quicker. I don't know, I'm just throwing ideas in the hat. That may cause other problems, but I agree. I just think he's very tank, shoot the enemy tank. Right now, Mauga's not in a great spot. I have seen some people like pick him randomly against Winston. Does pretty well against Winston. But yeah. Hot take, they should really add back the leveling system. It felt nice that every 2 to 3 matches you'd earn a loot box with 4 items in them, and now you only get a small amount of currency, maybe per match. It's also nice to check the scoreboard and get a really quick way of seeing how much someone had played the game. If I saw someone with a gold or above border, then I knew they'd be pretty good. They could upgrade the progression system with this, making the iconography, that really a word? More recognizable, rewarding with loot boxes and displayed on scoreboard. The Overwatch 1 system wasn't perfect, but we don't need perfect. We could just do with better. I like half agree with some of your points, but not all of them. I mean, I think a lot of people miss loot boxes, of course, because you do get free cosmetics, but you know, that's not to say loot boxes were a perfect cosmetic mechanic. I mean, there's all these laws about regulations about gambling. Loot boxes were banned in some countries at some point. Yes, you are certainly getting less than what you used to get back then. That's like a no-brainer. So when you have something and you take it away, people psychologically are going to feel like they're owed something since they played the original game and whatnot. That being said, the game did switch to a free-to-play model. I don't agree with all their decisions on how they monetize a new free-to-play model. But I do actually understand why they removed the loot box system and sold skin shops skins separately in battle passes. Could they do better with the battle pass, like remove souvenirs or feel like you get a little bit more better rewards with the battle pass? Sure. Could the shop prices be lowered a little bit? Yes. Could they also remove heroes from the battle pass as a gate? Yes. But you know, I'm not gonna get on the whole loot box versus the monetization stuff. That's like beating a dead horse. It's been a year and a half now at this point. Can you believe it? A year and a half. Now, when we go into the part where you're talking about the scoreboard and seeing how much someone played, like a hero portrait showing it, I agree. I think maybe even in quick play, because there's no rank, you can, if someone plays a hero like BAP or whatever, or Ana or Mercy, you can have an option to show the hero progression icon. Because right now, I don't know about you guys, I'm not really looking at people's progression system and their icons. I honestly don't care. They don't really mean much to me, but it could be kind of nice to add to quick play, and then you should add like those portraits and those borders back. I always liked them. I thought it was bizarre they removed them. Hot take, saying diff should be treated like GG easy, where it auto changes to some embarrassing sentence to shame the person who says it. Diff is only used to be toxic and it's already reportable. Really? Might as well just put a filter over people who say it so people stop saying it. It happens way too often. The only effing game mode, I'm trying not to swear for the algorithm, you'll never see tank, DPS support, heal, diff is the training range. Even in arcade, you see people shit talking. It needs to change. I always thought it was weird that they muted stuff like GG easy. I think they're just being playful with it to have it replace something, and saying diff could be, you know, changed to be something playful, but like, I don't really think it's that toxic, to be honest with you. It's like light toxicity, like real toxicity and slurs, that should be replaced, and that's not, if I'm not mistaken. I can type GG easy and, you know, it'll say like, I'm trying to be better, ha ha ha. Like literally, if you're typing like slurs, like why is that not automatically being replaced? Like, who cares about people saying diff? That's just getting under someone's skin. That's very, very mild compared to what people can actually be slinging at you in all chat. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think diff is reportable either. I don't really agree with that take, but they should just remove slurs, man. Hello? Okay. Hot take, endorsement level should get a bigger role in matchmaking. It's one of those mechanics that seem to be forgotten by the devs, but in reality, it speaks a lot about the player's behavior. Most players with endorsement 1 and 2, excluding new players obviously, are people who leave games, get toxic in chat, or it's constantly getting avoided and reported by the vast majority of their teammates. Have them play among themselves, or just give them the last row seat until they learn how to behave properly. It's sort of okay. I don't know if I fully agree with it, like speaking a lot about a player's behavior. It can in some ways, but like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really look at people's endorsements levels, and I don't feel like people, at least in the community that I'm a part of, like in the ranked community that I'm used to, NA East and the higher elo bracket, nobody cares about endorsements. So it's hard to say what kind of role it would have on player behavior. I think if you are like muted or banned, it sends you to level 1. Sure, maybe people who leave games and get toxic, maybe they get into like a low priority lobby, but like you'd have to find a way to obviously, you know, divide the amount of games they played and their endorsement levels. But a lot of people don't endorse because it's an opt-in system. It's too hard to use that as a factor or variable in matchmaking, if that makes sense. Maybe in like a toxic lobby, because I think Dota does something like that, like a low priority lobby for toxic people. If endorsements were like a not opt-in and you're forced to endorse someone, maybe like one person, and you have to choose, then maybe it could have a better role in it. But yeah, it's hard to I'm not sure if I agree with this at this current state of endorsements and the current method they're using for it. Okay, next, hot take. The role system we have now is limiting new character design. Personally, I would like some bridge characters between roles. Think Brig if she were tankier and healed less and had a bigger barrier. I just want some spicier kits and for every new hero to be different. If it's a tank, I don't want to feel like, oh, it's a beefy boy that does damage and likely some CC. I disagree, because if you're bridging characters between, well, in some sort of gaming design, it's very hard to not become homogenous over time. Like, I think having some unique parts of their kit, you can still do that. Like you say, think Brig with like tankier and healed less and a bigger barrier. Like you can certainly just make a new tank that has a shield as well and has a form of healing and like a bigger barrier or similar shield to like Ryan, but not really. Like there's ways to do that without feeling like the role system is limiting them. It doesn't mean all tanks can't have any form of healing. Like DPSs, like the role system should not be, sorry, my nose has got a little runny. The role system should not be limiting it, and I don't think it really is limiting character design, because you see heroes like Mauga come out and he's got lifesteal, at least for the team too. Soldier 76 is the DPS here that has a healing ability. Doesn't mean they're exclusive to the role. Support heroes can do damage. Some support heroes have CC. Tanks have CC. What other tank has lifesteal? Junker Queen has a bleed mechanic, which lifesteals, right? It does. You can certainly have overlap, and it's not really the system that's limiting them. That's just a creativity standpoint from Blizzard. And I actually do think their heroes are quite creative in their lore and their design. Minus Mauga, I didn't really like his kit, but not to say it wasn't creative. They had some fun with it. I think his ultimate's kind of cool. His weapons are just a little boring, but that's a little subjective. There are some Mauga mains that love him, but yeah. Okay, let's do one more hot take for the week. I feel like Pharah's rework was redundant. She feels very icky to use. The longer jump jet cooldown feels terrible. The new dash feels like a Control-C, Control-V from Hanzo and Lifeweaver. And with the damage increase to boop, it just makes her more spammy. The TLDR is she's losing her flying identity and becoming more of a spam bot. I would have agreed with you in the first like 5 days, but I think it's a hot take now, because the more I see Pharah, the more dominant I've seen her be. She's gonna feel icky to use because you're so used to the old Pharah. I mean, I was in a high elo lobby and this Pharah player accidentally ran out of fuel and fell off the map, and the Mercy was with them and they also fell off the map. That's just gonna take time to get used to with the new Pharah. The longer jump jet cooldown will feel terrible. That is a bit subjective. I don't actually have any input on that because I don't really play Pharah before and I don't play Pharah now. So maybe the jump jet cooldown still feels terrible. That can be agreed upon. The dash certainly feels better than Hanzo and Lifeweavers, the distance especially, and it refills your fuel. So there's like a two-part component to it. And the damage increase to boop makes her feel more spammy. I think it's less of the boop that makes her more spammy. It's certainly the recovery time between shots is faster, and the travel time of the rockets are a lot faster. And the Pharahs I've seen lately, after about 2 weeks of the season, have been way better than I expected now than that first 2 days. The first 2 days, everyone playing on that hit scan patch, all the Pharahs are getting rolled because they weren't like used to her at all. But the good Pharahs now are a lot spammier. That's true. She's less in the sky and more of like a flying identity, but more of an opportunist. She still plays in the air way more than any other hero. Similar to Echo, where Echo can be on the ground for a while poking, and then when she pops her flight, she's in there until she has to descend. Pharah's in that similar archetype of flying where it's like, okay, now you go and you spam, and then you go. And it's to remove the frustration of playing Pharah Mercy, who are permanently living in the sky. And it's just caused a lot of problems, especially on console, that I heard. She wasn't as bad on PC, a little bit more manageable with hit scan on PC, but console was just struggling to look up. I don't think the aim assist locks in when they're that far away, so yeah. They did alleviate that frustration. I'm still curious to hear what the Pharah players think, especially after putting time into it. There's one Pharah player I ran into in ranked. He said he had 5,000 hours on it, and I asked him what he thinks. He's like, honestly, still bad, still dog shit, but she's like a small buff away from like being like pretty damn good. Like fix the fuel thing, and she's actually really good. Like especially with the fuel drainage rate, I think it doesn't refill as quick or as fluid. Like there's some things you could tackle with the fluidity of the fuel. Was the TLDR from I think his name was Flexor. But yeah, that's basically it for this week's hot takes. Remember to leave yours in the comments. Don't write an essay for me. Make it easy. I'll see you guys next week.